Hi everyone, welcome back to the GCSEMathsPro YouTube channel. Today we're going to be going through the November 2019 paper 3, obviously high tier Edexcel. Do you just, okay, you want to do the paper 2? I did the paper 3 because I thought everyone's going to be saying why are we doing paper 2 when it's paper 3, but that was the only reason why I chose it. We can swap it if you want, I just have to lay it out again. Did I say 2019? I meant 2018. Let me have a look at the other one. Yeah, we can do the paper 2 instead if you prefer. Oh, I can't do one tomorrow, that's the thing. This will be the last one, so if you want to do that paper, we can do it today. But I'm not available tomorrow, unfortunately. So this will be the last live that I'll be able to do. So if you want to do that paper, we can do that today instead. Just let me know now and I can swap it. Yeah, this is the last live, unfortunately. Let me just upload the other one then. So paper 2. Okay, I'm just gonna have to scale it as we go through, alright? So if you're happy to swap it for paper 2, we'll do paper 2 instead. Swap the name as well. Yep. Alright, let's do that then. Okay, so you've got Venn diagrams question. We're doing paper 2 because apparently there's more topics on here that haven't come up yet compared to the paper 3. Alright, so question 1, we've got obviously here the universal set is even numbers between 1 and 25, and then you've got A, B, and C. So what I tend to do is if they give it to you worded like this, is I would just list out those numbers because obviously, yeah, it's quite easy to fill in A, B, and C, but you want to make sure you're also getting any numbers that are not in A, B, and C. So if I get my pen. Even numbers between 1 and 25, so that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. And then I just go through and, in order and fill them in. So there's only a 2 in A. Cross that off. 4 is not in any of them, as you can see, so that would go on the outside. 6 we've got just in B. 8 is in all 3 of them. 10 is just in A. 12 is in, well, it's not in any of them, so that's on the outside. 14 is in A. 16, again, not in any of them. 18 is in C. 20 is in B and C. And 22 is in C. And then 24 is not in any of them. Yeah, okay, so that's 4 marks. And then part B, a number is chosen at random from the universal set, so from the whole Venn diagram basically. Find the probability that the number is a member of A intersect B, so that's just where it overlaps between A and B, right? So that would be technically this, oh, that's the wrong bit. That would be technically this bit here, right? You can see there's only one number. So it's 1, and then out of all of the numbers, because it's the whole universal set, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1/12 you should get. Yes, I've done a predicted paper, it literally uploaded this morning as an actual video, not as a live. So yeah, you can go check that out for paper 3. You can also have a look at the paper 2 predicted one, because obviously there's topics on there that maybe didn't actually come up in your actual exam that therefore might come up in paper 3. So you can check out paper 2 and paper 3 predicted, just skip the ones that have come up. Okay, question 2. So Sean has information about the height in centimetres and the weight in kilos of each of 10 rugby players. He is asked to draw a scatter graph and a line of best fit for this information. Here is his answer. Sean has plotted the points accurately. Write down 2 things that are wrong with his answer. So they're saying that the points are fine. It's not the coordinates. It's obviously the line of best fit. We've got 2 marks, so 2 possible examples. Obviously, the line of best fit is not a line of best fit, right? It's just, he's just drawn a line directly through it. Yeah, the line of best fit is incorrect, exactly. No, unfortunately, I'm not able to do one tomorrow. Line of best fit is incorrect. That's 1 point. The other thing, I think, is to do with one of the scales. I haven't looked at this yet. Normally I go through them beforehand, but obviously we just changed it last minute, so we're just going to figure it out together. It looks like these. I normally, if the coordinates are fine, then I normally look at the axes, right? You can see the problem, I would say, is here, isn't it? This bit goes up 10, 10, 10, 10, but then this bit's 20. So that scale is off, isn't it? So the scale of the x-axis, we could say something like that. The height scale, anything you want to refer to, obviously the height axis. You could say 150 is missing. Anything like that. So it's referring to those two. Yeah, exactly. 140 to 160 is the 20-minute, is 20 centimeters difference. The rest are intervals of 10. Yeah, that's fine. So those 2 things basically for that, and that's a 2 mark. 2 mark question, as you can see. So we've got some angles here. Question 3, BEG is a triangle. ABC and DEF are parallel lines. Work out the size of angle X here. So angles and parallel lines, angles and triangles. So I was thinking you could obviously fill out this angle here, couldn't you? I think there's a few different ways to do this one, but I was thinking fill out that one because that's on a straight line anyway, isn't it? Give a reason for each stage of your working. So this is obviously because it's on a straight line. 110. It's 25. Which gives me 45. And then I want to know maybe this one up the top here so that I can get a triangle, don't I? So that's where I think we could use the parallel lines. So you could use the 110 and work out this one because that's co-interior angles, isn't it? This is angles on a straight line. Obviously, make sure you write that. equal 180, and then co-interior angles add up to 180 as well, so I'm going to just take away just the 110. That's 70, isn't it, here? Co-interior, I think you call them also just interior angles. And then the last thing, obviously, then here we can work out that angle inside the triangle. So again, another 180 minus 70 and 35. That's, I think, should be 75. And then finally, it's all in a triangle, isn't it? So you could work out x. So it was 75, wasn't it? Oh, well, 180 minus 75 and the other 45, which are in the triangle. I think gives you 60. Yeah, so 60 degrees should be your answer for that one. That's a nice full marker. That one is 3 marks for your working and then 1 mark for all of your reasons. They're looking for 2 reasons. One that is linked for the parallel lines and then just any other reason. I put down 3 reasons, but yeah, they're just looking for technically 2. Okay, compound interest. So this hasn't come up yet. So Northern Bank has 2 types of account. Both accounts pay compound interest. So you've got the cash savings account, which is 2.5% per annum, and then the shares account, which is 3.5% per annum. Ali invests £2,000 in the cash savings account, and Ben invests £1,600 in the shares account. Work out who will get the most interest by the end of 3 years. So this is just the formula one, isn't it? Use the formula on the formula sheet unless you already know it. So for Ali, we've got 2,000 we're starting with, multiplied by 1 plus the 2% as a decimal, so that'd be 1.025, and then for 3 years. And obviously then you just type it in. So then Ali should have, no, that's 25%. I was thinking that's such a big number. Make sure we put the 0 in. There we go, £2,153.78. Now, what I would do is, because they've asked for the interest and they both started with a different amount, I would probably work out the interest as well. I mean, this one's kind of obvious. You just obviously take away the 2,000. So the interest for Ali is £153.78. And then, yeah, we'll do Ben, obviously just same formula, different numbers. So 1,600 times 1.035 for 3 years. And that gives us 1,773.95. And again, to work out just the interest, subtract the 1,600. So that one would be 173. Yeah, 173.95. So who will have the most interest? Well, obviously it's going to be Ben. Might still have less in his account overall, but he has more interest. So just double check when it's compound interest. Are they asking for the interest or are they asking for the amount in the account? So obviously make it clear that you're going to choose Ben. Then in part B, we've got in the 3rd year, the rate of interest for the shares account is changed to 4% per annum. So that was Ben's one, wasn't it? So in the 3rd year, so 2 years stay the same, the 3rd year is now 4%. Does this affect who will get the most interest by the end of 3 years? Well, because it's changing Ben's to have more interest, it makes no difference, does it? Because we already said that Ben is the one that has the most interest. So technically, no. Give a reason for your answer. Yeah, Ben already has more. You could also work out if you wanted. They put figures in the mark scheme, but Ben already has more interest, so he would just have even more, wouldn't it? It wouldn't change. Out of the two of them, has the most. But yeah, you could calculate it if you wanted to. You could change the calculation and use the figures. Okay, question 5. The diagram shows a floor in the shape of a trapezium. John is going to paint the floor. Each 5-litre tin of paint costs £16.99. 1 litre of paint covers an area of 2 metres squared. John has £160 to spend on paint. Has John got enough money to buy all the paint he needs? This is just like an area one, isn't it? So you do actually have the formula for the area of your trapezium on your formula sheet if you need it. So let's start off by just working that out. So I normally do a plus b over 2. A and b are the parallel sides, so that would be 10 plus 16 over 2 times by the height between them, the perpendicular height, which is 7. So we should get 91 meters squared. Okay, each tin, we could work out how much paint that would be, because they've said that they've got 5-litre tins, but they've told us the paint coverage in terms of 1 litre. So a 5-litre tin would obviously be 5 times 2 meters squared, wouldn't it? So that's 10 meters squared per tin. How many tins do we need? Unfortunately, we need just over the 9, don't we? So 91 divided by 10 is obviously 9.1 tins, but therefore he would have to buy 10 tins, wouldn't he? Because he would need that extra little 0.1. So he'd have to buy 10 tins. Each tin costs £16.99, so £16.99 times 10 is £169.90 in pounds. He's got £160. Does he have enough? No. He's pretty close, but technically no. Doesn't have enough. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, your answer would be no for that one. That one was 5 marks, you can see. So quite a nice one, I feel like that one. Question 6 is on straight lines. So A is the point with coordinates 5, 9. B is the point with coordinates D, 15. The gradient of the line AB is 3. Work out the value of D. So obviously create an equation, right? I was going to create the equation that is for gradient, which is the change in y over change in x. So subtract the y values, the y coordinates, 15 minus 9, and then subtract the x ones in the same order, so D minus 5. That would equal to 3. And then you could just solve it from there if you wanted to. So 15 minus 9 is obviously 6. I'm going to multiply across by that denominator, so 3D minus 15. Add 15 is 21, and then divide by 3 is 7. Yep, exactly 7. So yeah, 3 marks for that one. Some standard form now. So write the number 0.000086623 in standard form. So obviously it has to be a number between 1 and, I say 10, but technically like 9.999. So 8.623. So the decimal place is now going to be here. So how many times have I moved the decimal place? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, now I put it in the wrong place. 5 here. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And because the original answer was smaller, it's going to be negative 5, isn't it? So just count it. This one, obviously, we're going to work out by putting it in the calculator. So 3.2 times 10 cubed. Add 5.1 times 10 to the minus 2. Over 4.3 times 10 to the minus 4. So we've got this number. I would write the whole of that down just to get the method marks as well. So 7,000, what was that? How many have we got? 7,441,979. 41979.07, I think that was what it was. So it's 2 marks. So I'd write that in the middle, and then it says give your answer in standard form, but also correct to 3 significant figures. So you can convert it in standard form and then do correct to 3 significant figures, or you can do 3 significant figures first and then do it in standard form. It's up to you. 3 significant figures would be this: 1, 2, 3, 4. And then obviously it has to be, again, between 1 and 10, isn't it? So 7.44, and then count the decimals. It's going to move to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that one's positive because it was a bigger number originally. Yep, exactly, to the power of 10 to the power of 6. So that's all your standard form. You've already had standard form though, so I don't know whether they're going to ask that again. Question 8, triangle P is reflected in the line y equals minus x to give triangle Q. Triangle Q is reflected in the line x is minus 1 to give triangle R. Describe fully the single transformation that maps R to P. So also double check which way round it is. So I'm going to draw out what has happened. So y is negative x. Hopefully you know that the graph for y is x is this way. It's like this stuff I'll show you, but we'll get rid of it in a sec. This is y is x, isn't it? Because 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, so on. So y is negative x is just the opposite of that. It's still diagonal, but it's this way. So yeah, hopefully you know what that line looks like. So it's firstly going to be reflected here. So it's kind of going to be folded kind of down this way, isn't it? That's what I'm thinking. So 1 away here. How many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. So I think it's going to start here and then go down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out by 2 and then obviously make a triangle. So that's the first thing. What's that? That would give you Q. So that's our reflection there. And then this one is reflected in the line y is x is minus 1. So that's a vertical line. If I can get my dotted line. So that's a bit more straightforward, that one. So just straight across, so 2 away here to here. And 2 across, something like this. And that one is R. Now they have asked for R to P, so this one. So don't get the order mixed up. They have asked for R to P. So what type of transformation is it? It looks to me to be a rotation. That's the first thing I would say. But obviously then we need to give details about the rotation. So obviously it's going that way. That's anti-clockwise. And I would say by 90 degrees. Because if you think about, just pick one of the sides. For example, this side is now this way. That's a 90-degree rotation, isn't it? That's how I kind of figure out. And then we want to know about the point. So what is the center? Now, because I've drawn these 2 lines, it's going to be that one that crosses over. So the center should be minus 1, 1. So at least that bit's kind of easier to figure out because you've drawn the lines. Yeah, but again, you've already had some kind of one like this before, haven't you? So whether they'll ask it again, I don't know. Topics you should definitely revise. I've got a video that went up, I think, on Friday. That was kind of paper 3 topics that I think will come up. You could have a look at that video and it'd have a few things, you know, like compound interest, probably circle theorems, maybe. I don't think you've had completing the square yet, have you? Or quadratic, or well, simultaneous equations, whether it's quadratic or not, I don't know. There's a few things on that video, you can have a look. Error intervals, that hasn't come up yet. So question 9, Martin truncates the number n to 1 digit. The result is 7. Write down the error interval for n. So you need to know what the word truncate means. It just means that you've looked at the number. So whatever Martin's number was, he looked at it. It was 7, and then it obviously might have had other digits afterwards, but he just cut them off. he just ignored what came after the 7. So it hasn't been rounded. Well, if anything, it's been rounded down. It hasn't been rounded up because it was definitely 7. So if you ever get the scenario where it says truncate, you always put the number they give you as the smallest one. And then because it's an interval, it has to be inequality. So remember the bottom inequality has an equals to, put the letter n, and then the top inequality doesn't have an equals to. And then the biggest number is technically 8. Now I know it can't be 8 because he didn't see an 8, he saw a 7. But that's why I've put that it's not equal to that. It's just slightly less than 8 because it could have been, the smallest it could have been was like 7.00. Obviously they wouldn't write zeros, but technically that, right? The biggest it could have been was 7.999 to infinity, just forever. So I'm not going to write that many 9s because either I would never be able to write enough 9s to encompass all of them. So that's why I put 8, but it's obviously just slightly less than 8. It's not exactly equal to 8. So yeah, truncating is where he's looked at the number, whatever it was, he read the first number and then he ignored the rest of it. Yeah, we were going to do paper 3 and then we changed it to paper 2. That's why I changed the title. Sorry about the confusion, guys. Because we decided that this paper had more topics that you hadn't seen yet. I think the paper 3 had quite a few topics you'd already done. Like it had histograms in it. It had, yeah, I don't know. It just had loads of stuff you'd already done. Okay, question 10. So Robert makes 50 litres of green paint by mixing litres of yellow paint and litres of blue paint in the ratio 2:3. So yellow to blue, 2:3. Yellow paint is sold in 5-litre tins. Each tin of yellow paint costs £26. Blue paint is sold in 10-litre tins. Each tin of blue paint costs £48. Robert sells all the green paint he makes in 10-litre tins. He sells each tin of green paint for £66.96. Work out Robert's percentage profit on each tin of green paint he sells. So basically a percentage profit one, just I guess more complicated. So he's going to make 50 litres of green paint. Let's split that up. Let's share out the ratio. So obviously add up the parts. 50 divided by 5. And then to get yellow, we times by 2. So that would just be 20 litres of yellow, wouldn't it? And then you can obviously just subtract it to find the green, or you can divide it again and times by 3. You should get 30 litres of blue. Okay, so that's that first bit done. So let's see. Obviously, because percentage profit, you need to know the cost, don't you? You need to know how much it cost him. So yellow paint is sold in 5-litre tins at £26. So we need 20 litres of yellow. Obviously, if you divide that, that means 4 tins, doesn't it? 4 tins of yellow. 4 times 26 is, I think 104. Yeah. So that's the yellow. The green is sold, the blue, sorry, is sold in 10 litres. So 30 divided by 10 means 3 tins of blue. And then that costs £48. So 3 times 48. Oh, what's going on with that? £144. So then the total cost is obviously both of those. £248. So we've got our cost. Then we want to just reading the comments. Because paper 2 and paper 3 are not different. They are basically a mixture of the same topics. It's not like it's defined what is paper 2 and paper 3, right? It's a mixture between the two. Now I was going to do paper 3, but then some of the students were letting me know that paper 2 made more sense because it had more topics that haven't come up in your particular year, so that's why we swapped it. All right. So total cost, we want to know also then the total sales. So it said that obviously we have 50 litres of green paint. The green paint is sold in 10 litres. So divided by 10, that's obviously 5 tins, isn't it? 5 tins of green. And then he sells each tin for 66.96. So 66.96 times 5. Gives me 334.80 for the green. So I'll scroll down, we'll do percentage profit. It's basically the same formula as percentage change, just obviously with the context. So you want to know the profit, which is obviously the sales, how much you sold it for, minus the cost, over the original, which is obviously the cost, because you have to buy the paint before you can then sell the new paint, times by 100. Is 35, as you said. Yeah, exactly. 35. So just, again, a fairly nice one, just a lot of kind of multiplying and dividing there, but for 5 marks. Now, this one, I think you've already had in paper 2. So I'll just go through it really quick. So, question 11. In a restaurant, there are 9 starter dishes, 15 main dishes, 8 dessert dishes. Janet is going to choose one of the following combinations for her meal: a starter and a main and a dessert, or starter, main, and a dessert. Show that there are 1,335 different ways to choose the meal. So we've got kind of different combinations. Obviously, combinations we have to multiply them. So, for example, a starter and a main would be 9 times 15, and then the main and the dessert 15 times 8, and then all 3 9 times 15 times 8, and then because those are different possibilities, we'll add those together. So this is 135, 120, and 1080, and then you add those. Obviously you should get what they've got. For your actual one, because I know that this came up already, didn't it? I don't know, I've not read the question properly, I just saw that it came up. You can have a look. "15 dogs in a dog show. One dog is awarded first prize, a different dog is awarded second prize. There are 12 cats in a cat show. One cat is awarded first prize." Same thing there. Work out how many different ways these 4 prizes can be awarded. No, I don't think you have to divide it by 2. Yeah, it's quite an odd one, isn't it? Let's see, you did dogs times dogs, divide by 2. Cats times cats divided. I would have done like, again, I don't have the actual official mark scheme, but "15 times 14 and 12 times 11. Yeah, it's from the same category, so I would have taken away 1. Okay, algebraic fractions. You haven't really had a big question on this yet. I think you've had like one small one in paper 1, but it was quite a big question. If there's a time question, I think it only works if you've got decimal hours into hours and minutes, isn't it? Only if you know. Only if you know how to use it properly, I would suggest. Otherwise, just convert it back yourself. I don't think it makes that much of a difference, though. Alright, so we've got to write 4x squared minus 9 over 6x plus 9 multiplied by 2x over x squared minus 3x in the form ax plus b over cx plus d, where a, b, c, and d are integers. So I'll just try and factorise everything first before I start multiplying. The first one is difference of two squares. Normally they throw that in somewhere, so if you haven't had it yet, it will come up at some point. The bottom is just a single bracket, isn't it? You can already see immediately that you can cross out these two. Times by 2x doesn't factorise, obviously, but this one does. This one also goes into single brackets because it's not a complete quadratic. So then I would multiply it 2x minus 3 over 3x, x minus 3. And then you can see that we could cancel the x's. I don't think there's anything else you can cancel, so what I would do is expand it, because they've said, obviously here they don't have any brackets. So expand that, you get 4x minus 6 over 3x minus 9. And there's nothing else you can simplify there. That would be your answer. Part B, express 3 over x plus 1 over x minus 2 minus 4 over x as a single fraction in its simplest form. So obviously adding and subtracting fractions, you do need to have common denominators, whether it's algebraic or not. So in this case, I would just multiply them all together, because I think otherwise it's quite complicated, isn't it? So my common denominator, let me do one at a time, would just be, just put them in brackets, x at the front, x plus 1, x minus 2. So just figure out, obviously, whenever you change the denominator, you have to also change the numerator, don't you? Just figure out what's missing. So for example, the first fraction already has x plus 1, but it doesn't have the other two. So that would be 3, well, I guess put the x first. 3 times x and then times the x minus 2. And then you can add the other one. The other one is missing the x and the x plus 1. Obviously just times by 1, so it's just that. Same denominator. You can write this all in one if you want, you don't have to have it separately. And then the last one is missing the two brackets, so x plus 1, x minus 2. And then because they have all got the same denominator, we can just add and subtract, but also expand. So we've got 3x squared minus 6x for that one, plus x squared plus x. Now this one is subtract, so I'm going to expand the double brackets first. X squared minus 2x plus x, that's minus x minus 2. All of that's over x plus 1, x minus 2. Obviously we can start collecting the like terms and then expand out the other one, so 4x squared minus 5x, and then multiply everything not just by 4 but by minus 4, right? So minus 4x squared plus 4x plus 8 over the same, and then again collect the like terms. So the 4x squareds just cancel. You've got 8 minus x, or minus 8 plus x, you can write it that way around. I've just written it this way around to get the negative not at the start, that's the only reason. You can write it the other way around if you want. So that would be my answer there. Let me scroll up a little bit. Nothing else can cancel, so it is a single fraction, but there's nothing else I can cancel. Okay, so that was 6 marks for algebraic fractions. So question 13, the diagram shows a circle and an equilateral triangle. One side of the equilateral triangle is the diameter of the circle, and the circle has a circumference of 44 centimeters. Work out the area of the triangle. Okay, so circumference, just think what's the formula for that? You do have it on your formula sheet if you don't know it. 2 pi r, or pi times diameter. So 2 pi r is equal to 44, isn't it? So you can kind of work back almost from there. To find the radius, just divide by 2 pi. Obviously that will be a decimal, unfortunately. Divide by 2 pi. roughly about 7, but I'll keep that answer in my calculator. So roughly about 7, isn't it? 7 centimeters. So if the radius is 7, the side of the triangle is obviously then double that, isn't it? Because that's the diameter. So you could write down that the diameter is double this, which is 14. Again, roughly 14 is going to have some decimals as well. Now, to find the area of the triangle, I think what I would do, because I don't have the perpendicular height, you could work it out if you wanted, but I just don't think there's enough marks here to do that. So what I would do is I would just use the formula that you have on your formula sheet, which is the trigonometric 1/2 AB sine C, because we do actually know the angle. I know it doesn't say, but we do know it, because if it's an equilateral triangle, all of the angles are 60, aren't they? So that's 14, again with decimals. This is 14, so both sides are 14, and then 60 between them. So I'd probably just go straight and use this formula. 14 times sine 60. Obviously I will use the decimals that are in my calculator, you can see. So times that by 2 to get the diameter. So this one here. So 0.5 times my answer again, times not cos times sine of the angle 60. And then you can, this is just your final answer, so I will round it now to 3 significant figures, 84.9. Yeah, 44 over 2 pi technically, but yes, otherwise yes. I don't know about the vectors and circle theorems thing. Because I'm not an actual teacher, I don't actually hear any of that kind of information, so I don't know. But neither of them have come up yet, isn't it? So I feel like they're both going to come up, but whether, yeah, maybe one of them will be easier, I'm not sure. I couldn't actually tell you. Okay, I think you basically had a question similar to this anyway. So on the grid, sketch the curve with equation y equals 2 to the power of x, give coordinates for any points of intersection. It's an exponential graph, so it's going to look like this. The only thing is we know where it crosses through the y-axis. It will never cross through the x. So you need to draw kind of something a bit like this, not with that little tail there, obviously. Something a bit like that. And it always crosses through any of these exponential ones at 1, because that's where x is 0, isn't it? So for example, 2 to the power of 0 is 1. Any number to the power of 0 is 1. So the exponential graph will always cross through at 1, but I think you've already had a question on exponential graphs. So whether they'll ask again, I don't know. Okay, question 15. The equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared is equal to 42.25. Find the radius of the circle. So it's only one mark, as you can see. You should know that a circle equation is like this. So effectively, we just need to square root the 42.25. And it gives us 6.5. So that's literally it. 6.5. Yep, exactly, root it. So there are only red counters and blue counters in a bag. Joe takes at random a counter from the bag. The probability that the counter is red is 0.65. Joe puts the counter back into the bag. Mary takes at random a counter from the bag. She puts the counter also back into the bag. What is the probability that Joe and Mary take counters of different colours? So if you wanted to, well, it's only 2 marks, but if you wanted to visualise it, you could set up a tree. If you feel comfortable enough to not draw a tree, that's also fine. But the point is that they have replaced it, haven't they, this time? So I could just draw it just to show you. So red, blue. The chance of red is 0.65, so therefore blue is obviously the other option, which adds up to 1, so 0.35. And then it's going to be exactly the same again, because they've said that Joe puts it back in the bag, Mary puts it back in the bag, so the probabilities are not changing, which I think is why they've used decimals and not fractions in this case. 0.65, 0.35. So what is the probability that Mary and Joe take different counters? So that'd be either like, let's say Joe takes red, Mary takes blue, or Joe takes blue, Mary takes red. So it's basically just the 0.65 times 0.35 twice, isn't it? Between the branches of a tree, you always multiply. And then if you've got more than one option, then you add them together. We've got two options here. So you would add the answer to this. Obviously, it's the same answer, isn't it, technically? (0.2275). And then this one will also be the same. It's just the other way around, isn't it? So same answer. And then add those together, or obviously you could just double this one. 0.455. So yeah, you don't have to draw the tree if you feel comfortable enough to do it without, but you are also welcome to draw it. It's up to you. Yep, 91/200 is the same thing. That would be acceptable. Any kind of equivalent, if you put 44.5%, I don't know, I don't normally do percentages, but you could, as you said, 91/200, that's also fine. Any kind of version of this is fine. What do you convert the... Do you mean in like a speed, distance, time question? Because normally, if that's what you mean, sometimes they say the time in, as you said, minutes and seconds, or sometimes they say the time in hours and minutes. And then if you look at whatever they've given you for the speed, sometimes, normally it's like kilometers per hour, isn't it? So in that case, you'd convert to hours. If it said meters per second for the speed, you'd convert everything to seconds, that, you know, that kind of thing. So if it's a speed, distance, time question, look for what the speed is in, and then that's what you'd convert to. If you know, within the working out, obviously, I don't know, it depends what the question's asking at the end. If it's asking for the speed, then that's the answer. If it's asking for the time, it normally tells you in the question what to leave your answer as, doesn't it? So you'd convert to whatever they've asked you to leave it as. Yeah. Okay, there was also a part B. So there are 78 red counters in the bag. So remember that was 0.65, wasn't it? Is 78. How many blue counters are there in the bag? So that's basically 65% of all the counters, isn't it? So you could write it as like 0.65. Let's say X is the total number of counters. Obviously, this is reverse percentages then, isn't it? 78 divided by 0.65. So there's 120 in total. That's the total. We want to obviously know just the blue ones. So we want to know 0.35 or 35% of the 120. Times that by 0.35, 42. Should be your answer. Yep, 42 exactly. Yeah. November 2018, paper 3, question 5. Oh, yeah, because I looked at it last night. I was preparing that one and I saw something about it was like the skiing one, right? Hang on, I've got it in front of me. Let me just really quickly answer your question. Oh. Question 5. Yeah, so they gave you 1 minute and 54 seconds, didn't they? They gave you the time in minutes and seconds. They gave the distance in meters. Laura assumes her average rate. Yeah, using the assumption, work out how long it would take her. Well, I don't know. The answer says minutes and seconds, doesn't it? How long it would take her to complete a 700-meter race. I guess you're working out the speed first, aren't you? You're working out the speed. So I would probably do meters per second in that case. I'd probably convert the 1 minute 54 into seconds. So that's like 60 plus 54, isn't it? So I can't even add that in my head for some reason. 114 seconds? I'd probably do meters per second just because of the context, yeah. And then at the end, obviously convert it back into... How do I put that in the calculator? I would just go, well, I know that 1 minute is 60 seconds, so add the 60 to the 54 seconds. That's how I would do it. I would just think 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, that kind of thing. That's normally what I do. Okay. Question 17. This was quite an interesting one, actually, I feel like. 5 marks, this one. So P and Q are two numbers such that P is greater than Q. When you subtract 5 from P and subtract 5 from Q, the answers are in the ratio 5 to 1. When you add 20 to P and add 20 to Q, the answers are in the ratio 5 to 2. Find the ratio of P to Q. So I would write the ratios as in algebraically. So subtract 5 from p, so p minus 5, and then to q minus 5 is the same as 5 to 1. And then over here do the same, p plus 20 to q plus 20 is 5 to 2. And then I want to create simultaneous equations because I've got 2 letters that I don't know. So what I would say is I just basically memorize how to go from, you know, when you've got 2 ratios, so like these two, one's algebraic, one's just numbers, you can create one equation from that. You just have to memorize how it works. And the way that I memorize it is it's kind of the cross-multiplied version. So for example, on one side of my equation would be 1 multiplied by p minus 5, which is just p minus 5. And on the other side of my equation would be 5 multiplied by q minus 5. I just memorize that. That's how I convert into an equation. And I would do exactly the same here. Cross multiply. Just remember that they're the wrong way around effectively, isn't it? So 2p plus 20 is equal to 5 q plus 20. And then I can ignore my ratios for now and just go, right, I've got simultaneous equations here. Let me find out the value of p and the value of q. And then at the end, you can just chuck them back into a ratio. So I just memorize how to convert into ratios, from ratios into equations. That's what I do. So obviously, let's just expand this, select, collect all the like terms, you know, simplify, that kind of thing. That's 25. I'm just going to move, let's add the 25. So that's p plus 20, right? And then over here, we've got 2p plus 40 is 5q plus 100. So I'm just going to get the like terms together, as in the numbers together. You can obviously rearrange it however you want. Okay. So here I've ended up, the way that I'm looking at it, I've ended up with a 5q and a 5q. So I'm probably just going to substitute that in. This is just linear, isn't it? Linear simultaneous equations. So you can use elimination method if you like. You can use substitution. Just the way that I've rearranged it, I'm going to use substitution. So 2p would be just p plus 20 plus 60. So that's p is 80. If you move the p across, add the 20 and the 60. So I've got 1. Obviously, once you've got 1, then you can figure out the other one, can't you? So sub it into either one. I'd probably sub it in maybe to this one. It doesn't really matter. So 80 plus 20 is 5q, which is 100, isn't it? 100 is 5q, so then q is 20. So then they've said, what's p to q? So obviously I'll get my actual numbers 80 to 20, but they obviously want us to simplify it. You can obviously simplify it yourself. You could also just put it in a fraction. Normally I mean, that was kind of obvious to simplify, but if you wanted to, normally I put the smaller one at the top, so 20 and then 80. Do you see how it gives me 1 to 4? So obviously where the 20 was, I'll put 1. Where the 80 was, I'll put 4. You can do that if you like, if it's like a really big one. So yeah, as you said, 4 to 1 should be your answer. No, I don't think we've done this paper before. I've definitely done this question before, but we shouldn't have done this paper before, no. Because I hadn't done any of the paper 2 or paper 3s before. It feels familiar, doesn't it? But I don't think that we have. Yeah, you can divide each ratio as well, which is absolutely fine. You can do that. Then you'd have to cross multiply, so it's kind of like, yeah, as you said, that's like ends up being an extra step, which is fine. You can also do it that way. I prefer to just memorize it as just crossing them over. I find that easier. You just do whatever you find is easier. It's fine. You'll get the same answer. Okay, so 4 marks for that one. So that, 5 marks. So that was obviously just ratio, but mostly simultaneous equations. Okay, question 18. Straight line L1 passes through the points with coordinates 4, 6 and 12, 2. The straight line L2 passes through the origin and has a gradient of -3. Lines L1 and L2 intersect at point P. Find the coordinates of P. So, I mean, in my head, this is effectively the same as simultaneous equations. We're kind of doing the same thing again. So underneath the context of straight lines, it is just simultaneous equations. So I'd work out the equation for both. So for line 1, we need to find, obviously, the gradient first, line 1, which is changing y over changing x. So you can subtract it whichever way you want. 2 minus 6, 12 minus 4. So what's that? Minus 4 over 8, so minus a half. And then obviously find the plus c, the y-intercept, so sub in just one of those two coordinates. Doesn't matter which one. Probably do 4 and 6, I guess. So 6 is equal to minus a half times 4 plus c. So half times 4 is 2, minus 2, so that's c is 8, isn't it? So line 1, the equation is y is minus a half x plus 8. Line 2 is a bit easier because they've already told us that the gradient is minus 3, and they've told us that it crosses through the origin, which means that there is a plus c, but the plus c is 0, isn't it? So that's just minus 3x. Now, where they intersect is where they're equal to each other, isn't it? It's the exact same coordinates, so I'm going to make them equal because they're both y is the subject. So minus 3x is equal to minus a half x plus 8. Obviously, if you add that, you get minus what? 2.5x is 8. You might as well just divide that straight away then. You can leave it as a fraction, or you can put it as a decimal, minus 3.2 or negative 16 over 5, whichever you prefer. That's not a 16, what is that? So x is that. Obviously, to find y, again, just the same as the previous question, just go back and sub it into one of the original equations, which I think this one's easier, so I'm just going to sub it in there. Minus 3 times minus 16. For some reason, I can't seem to write 16. Obviously, that would become positive, so times that, just my answer on my calculator, 48 over 5, or if you're using decimal, 9.6. So there are my answers. Obviously, because they're both straight lines, there's only one answer for each, like one set of coordinates, isn't it? If there was a quadratic equation, you have to solve do you mean the quadratic formula? Like 9c? Oh, in the other paper. Did I get rid of it? I must have closed it. It's 3 marks, isn't it? So I guess you get a mark for subbing it in, and then maybe a mark for both of your answers, because obviously there'll be 2 answers. Not sure what your question is. Can you get process marks for just putting the whole thing in the formula without simplifying? Yeah, for L2, so because they're all straight lines, right? The whole thing needs to be in this format. Y equals mx plus c. That's the straight line kind of basis format, isn't it? This is the gradient, this is the y-intercept. They told me the gradient was minus 3, so that goes in front of the x. Then they told me that it passes through the origin, and the origin is here, isn't it? 0, 0. So if you imagine, I mean, it's a negative gradient. Oh, that was really bad. If you imagine it's going like that, let's just pretend that that's minus 3, the gradient. Do you see how the y-intercept is 0? So I'm not going to write plus 0 because there's kind of no point. But that's what they told me, that because it goes through the origin, the plus c is just 0. So that's why I didn't write it, yeah. Well, because this is a calculator paper, I wouldn't even simplify this. I would just write it down on my paper in as it is inside, just directly substituting it in, b squared minus 4ac, like all of that. And then I would then just directly put it in my calculator. And then just, obviously, because it's asked for 3 significant figures, you have to give the decimal answers. So I wouldn't simplify inside, no, because it's not a non-calculator. Okay, so question 18, there we go. Yeah, I don't know if you'd get marks for that, because like I said, it's not a non-calculator, so I'd have to check the mark scheme. Now, I know that you've got some kind of quadratic inequality anyway in the other one, but we'll have a look at this one too. So solve 22 is less than m squared plus 7 over 4, which is less than 32. So obviously we want to rearrange this. We don't want to have all of these numbers in the middle. So I would multiply by 4, but obviously just do it on all parts. So 88 is less than m squared plus 7, which is less than, what's that, 128? Let me check. No, you got banned because you were being inappropriate, not because anyone else was being inappropriate to you. How do you know when to change the sign in inequalities? It's if you ever multiply or divide by a negative number. That's when you have to flip the signs. I normally don't even, that normally doesn't come up that often, to be fair. But yeah, when you have to multiply or divide by negative numbers. Okay, obviously I'm going to move the 7 as well. So subtract 7, so you get 81 m squared. What's that, 121, which you can see, hopefully you can recognize these are now some square numbers. So I would, obviously we're going to square root, but the thing to consider is when you square root you get plus and minus, don't you? So I think for now I would probably just take it separately. You've already had a question on this, so I don't think it'd come up again, but I would just put an equals there just for now, because you know with quadratic inequalities I normally solve it first, then I put the inequalities back afterwards. So m would be not just 9 but plus or minus 9, or the other one, 121, m would therefore be not just 11 but plus or minus 11. So we've got 4 answers, not just 2. So let's see what we want. We obviously have to now put them back into the inequalities. The negatives obviously go together, the positives go together, but I want to know, is m between them or is it separate, I guess. It's quite a complicated one to explain this. I'm just trying to think how the best way to explain it, because it's a 2-part, well, you've got 2 answers, haven't you, on each side. So imagine like this one would have been like this, wouldn't it? If I rearranged it to get 0, because it's a quadratic technically, isn't it? Here. That's how I normally figure out which inequality answer I put. Is it facing 0 or is it facing the inequality? The same with this one. Would have been 80, oh no, the other way around, but it would have been facing 0, wouldn't it? So it's talking about a range. So you want to have m is between 9 and 11, and then minus 11, obviously remember minus 11 is technically smaller than minus 9 because it's facing the 0. Yeah, exactly, the positives together, the negatives together. I'm not really going to go into detail on this one because they have literally asked you, I'm pretty sure in paper 2 a question that was literally on quadratic inequality, so I don't think they're going to ask again. But yeah, I think this was quite a hard version of it. As long as you rearrange it at the start and get the 2, they call them critical values, that's already 3 marks anyway. So even if you just wrote down plus or minus 9, plus or minus 11, that's already 3 out of 5. The inequalities is then just the last 2 marks. Yeah, I'm glad that you liked the predicted paper. As I said, check out predicted paper 2 if you haven't already, because some of the topics obviously there, because I didn't know what was going to come up. Also still haven't come up yet, so some of the questions from predicted paper 2, I obviously didn't want to repeat the same question, but it's on topics that could still come up. So maybe have a look through that one, skip the ones that have come up, and then, you know, if you want some more questions, that could still kind of work for you. Question 20. I don't think you've had any cones or spheres yet, to be fair. Yeah, or frustrums, as you said. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily come up. Bearings doesn't come up often. I just kind of put it in my predicted paper just in case, just so you could practice it. So here is a frustum of a cone, as you can see. I think I've been through this one before actually, but I think it was because this was a very specific one. So I don't know, you guys might recognize it. So we've got a frustum, obviously. The diagram shows that the frustum is made by removing a cone of height 3.2 from a solid cone with height 6.4 and base diameter 7.2. Now, often they give you the diameter for cones and spheres because obviously the formulas are in terms of radius. So do just consider that. They do give you most of the time the diameter to kind of trip you up. So I normally like to make a note before I even start that the radius is actually 3.6. The frustum is joined to a solid hemisphere, obviously same diameter, therefore the same radius, to form a solid S, as you can see here. And then they've given us density. Now I know that you've already had density, so yeah, they might not. Yeah, I remember doing this one. Yeah, I don't know if we just did it specifically on its own because it was a hard one or what, but yeah, I remember we did this one before. You've already had density anyway, I know that in paper 2, but you haven't had cones or anything. So calculate the average density of solid S. So density is mass over volume. So in order to find the density of S, you need the total mass and the total volume, right? That's kind of, if you think about backtracking, that's what I need, which is also why they've given you the formulas for the volume of both. Now, maybe if I move this across just so I can write on this side. So volume of the sphere, also remember that they will give you the sphere, not the hemisphere, so you have to remember to half that as well. That's kind of the easiest thing to probably work out to start with, is the volume of the sphere. Let me label it so we remember which is which. Might as well start with that. Volume of the sphere is 4/3 pi radius, which was 3.6 cubed, and then remember that you do want to have only half of that. 4/3 I times 3.6 cubed, and then I will half it. So 97.71, I might save that actually. 97.716-ish. Okay. Volume of the cone, obviously they've given you that formula, we want the volume of the frustum. So we can work out the volume of the big cone to start with, because we've got all that information, might as well go with that. So 1/3 pi, the radius is 3.6 again, squared this time by the height, and then that's 6.4, because that's the whole cone, right, the big cone. I don't know whether I might leave that, because we're going to subtract them. I might leave that and not just write an answer. I'll leave that and we can subtract it all in one just so I don't have loads of decimals. Now, obviously we need to find the volume of the small cone. Small cone. That's the issue, isn't it? I've got the height, but the radius is not the same. So I've said this before, because the cones kind of overlap each other, aren't they? They've chopped off the top of the cone. So effectively the logic is that the small cone and the big cone are similar shapes, which means that there is a scale factor. I think you've mentioned that in the comments. One is the scale factor of the other, one is a multiple of the other. So I just need to figure out what is the scale factor. Now, obviously I need to use dimensions that I have for both. I know that the small cone has a height of 3.2 and the big cone has a height of 6.4. So that's what I'm going to use to find my scale factor. So the scale factor, I normally do big divided by small. You can do it whichever way around you like. So I just prefer it this way. Obviously, you can see that that would be 2. So what we're saying is the big cone is twice as big as the small cone, which means the big cone radius is twice as big. So the radius of the small cone would be 3.6 halved again, because it's half the size. So 1.8. So yeah, just use it as a similar shape. So now we've got all our information. 1/3 pi times the radius, which was 1.8 squared, and then the height of the small one is also 3.2. And then obviously the frustum, I'm just going to subtract them straight away just so I don't have too many decimals. So 1/3 pi times 3.6 squared, remember it's not cubed this time, it's just squared, times by 6.4 minus the small one, which is another 1/3 pi, times 1.8 squared this time, and then the height was 3.2. So there's the volume of our frustrum, 76 point something. So we've got the total volume of the frustrum, and then we've got the total volume of the sphere. So the total volume of the whole shape, we can obviously add them together. And I saved it already, so I'm going to use my saved answer, 173.717. So I might save this one as well. So we've got our total volume. We also need to know then the total mass. So the mass, we've been told the density, right? So if I want to work out the mass, I now have the volumes. So to work out the mass, I need to do density times the volume. So for the frustrum, it's just a massive question, this one. The mass of the frustrum is the density of the frustrum, which is 2.4, times by the volume of the frustrum, which we said was that 76 number. I know there's technically more decimals there, but it was 00, wasn't it? 182.4 roughly. And then the mass of the hemisphere, density 4.8, multiplied by the volume of the hemisphere, which was up here. Oh, I put sphere, but it's hemisphere. 97, that number. Which I do have it saved, so I'm going to use my saved answer. 469.037. 037. We're almost there, guys. We're getting there. So then the total mass, I'll put S for the solid shape S, is this answer plus the 182.4. So 651.4. And now finally, we've got our total volume, the total mass, so the density of the whole thing is mass divided by volume. For this answer, which I think I had saved. Remember where, if you do save it, remember where you saved it. Let me just check that I divided by, yep, exactly 3.74999. We can just round that to 3.75. I feel like that's fine, isn't it? There we go. Let me just check the comments. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be there's any questions. 3.75. They've obviously given you more space. 5 marks. That was a huge question, though, to be honest. That was huge. And then our last question. I'll have to have a look at this because I haven't prepared this paper ahead of time, so we'll have to figure it out at the same time. So we've got A, B, R, and P are 4 points on a circle with center O. And then A, O, R, and C are 4 points on a different circle. So center O, yeah, okay. The two circles intersect at the points A and R. So A and R, okay. The two circles, yeah, that's what I just read. CPA, CRB, and AOB are straight lines. Yeah, you can assume that creates a triangle. Prove that CAB is equal to ABC. So let me figure out which two those are. First of all, CABC to A to B. So this top angle we need to prove is the same as ABC, this one here. Oh, so we're effectively proving it's an isosceles triangle then. Okay, obviously you can use circle theorems for this. I think you can use algebra in this one because there's nothing labeled. In terms of like letters, we don't have any numbers or letters, do we? So you could if you wanted. Like for example, you could call this one X. It's quite hard to visualize this actually, isn't it? You can also draw on any lines if you want as well. What was this? This is only 4 marks actually, it's not even a 5 marker. Let's see. So I might draw a line here. It's really hard to visualize this one with the circles overlapping. But this line here, so ORCA, that's all in the circle on the left, isn't it? So that would be a cyclic quadrilateral. So if you wanted to, you could label this one as 180 minus x, because opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral. Then they've told us CRB is a straight line, isn't it? They've told us that. So we could work out this side, which would then be technically 180 minus the 180 minus x. So that's obviously just the opposite, isn't it? That's just x. So this one is x here. Okay. Oh, okay, I see where this is going, yeah. And then technically, because the line that I've drawn, this line, is a radius of the second circle, the one on the right, because it's from O to the circumference, and this is also a radius, then that means that that's an isosceles triangle. So then that means that my angle that I wanted is also x, isn't it? Because of isosceles triangles. So it's basically those 3 steps, actually. That was all it was. It was just those 3 steps. This is paper 2. So first of all, you want to say that CRO is 180 minus x because of the cyclic quadrilateral. Obviously write the whole sentence about the opposite angles. But yeah, that. And then you can say that therefore ORB is x because of angles on a straight line. Again, write out the whole thing. And then finally, you can say that the one that we actually wanted, which was ABC, is x because it's an isosceles triangle because of the radius. So it's basically those 3 things, but that gives you the 4 marks, yeah. Yeah, if you only revised paper 2 when you did your paper 2 exam, you've probably missed out a lot of topics. Calculator paper, generally paper 2 and paper 3 are always a mixture of topics. It's not explicitly one is paper 2, one is paper 3. Every year they swap the topics. So you have to revise both paper 2 and paper 3 for both your actual paper 2 and paper 3. Yeah. So that was the answer to that one. 4 marks. Yeah. So yeah, not a bad paper, I guess, that one. Or 21 questions. It's fewer questions as well. Quite a few 5 markers. Yeah. Don't know if anyone has any questions about this paper at all. As I've mentioned, my predicted paper posted this morning, so you can also have a look at that as well. Yeah, my predicted paper is already posted. You can have a look at the video. It's uploaded on my channel. You can download the paper as well if you want, but there's a video of me talking through it, so you can have a look at that on my channel. As I said, it uploaded this morning. The frustum one, for the circle, can you do 2/3 instead of dividing it by... Oh, for the like hemisphere and the sphere, do you mean? Let me go back. I think that's what you're referring to. This formula here. Yeah, you can. Technically, the formula for hemisphere, I guess, if you had an actual formula, would be this. If you've memorized it like that, that's fine. I just kind of, because they give you the formula for the sphere every time, I just take the sphere and half it. That's kind of what I do. But if you're happy to have this one, then that's also the same thing. Yeah, that's okay. I feel like this guy is intent on being kicked out, isn't he? Like, don't worry if you don't pass your GCSE, as long as you're just trolling everyone, that's fine. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I was giving him a second chance, but apparently he doesn't want to take it, so we can just kick him out. Yeah, my biggest tip is just make sure you write something for every single question. I know that sounds difficult if you're like, well, I don't know what to write, but I would just say if you're don't leave a question blank. If you can write anything down, it doesn't matter if you think it's wrong, it doesn't matter if you think that it's not right or related or anything. Just look at the question and see what topic it is, and then see, do I know anything about this topic generally? Even if you think it's wrong, even if you don't think it's quite right, I would just write anything that you can possibly. Because you just don't know where you're going to pick up marks. It doesn't matter if what you wrote was actually not right, because, well, you're just going to get 0 marks anyway, aren't you? So you might as well try and just write something. So try not to leave anything blank, even if you're just writing, like if you're just rambling random calculations, I don't care, just write something down. Yeah, that's what I would suggest. I don't know if you guys, well, this is the thing. What is it, almost 6:30. Trying to figure out if I have time to do another one. If you want, we could go through the paper 3 that I originally uploaded. I have to check. I don't know if I have a tutoring session at 7. So obviously if I do, then we'll only have 30 minutes, right? So I won't be able to finish it. If I don't end up having it, which I think I probably won't because they haven't replied to me, then I could carry on for another hour, as long as we are finished before 8. Yeah, I could do another one if you want another one right now, but I'm just warning you, I'm going to check it just like in like 30 minutes, about 5 to 7, I'm going to check if I have a tutoring session. If I do, then I'll have to obviously just stop and go to that. If I don't, I can carry on. What we could do, if you want, we could work backwards through the paper. There was quite a lot of questions on that paper, like you said, paper 3, there was quite a lot of questions that I think have already come up anyway. That was the only thing. This is the next one. Hardest predicted question. I mean, you can have a look at my predicted paper if you want, but I've already done a video on that, so I wasn't going to do a live on it. Otherwise, I don't know what other predicted questions you would, because otherwise, if I have to kind of put the predicted questions together, that's going to require me to like prepare it. Do you see what I'm saying? Oh, I'm glad you liked my predicted paper. Yeah, what we can do if you want is, well, if I skip through this, we can also skip the ones that, you know, I think histograms comes up. That's already come up for you guys. Certain things like that. We could skip some of these. Algebraic proof, that's already come up. And we could just start from the end. I know someone asked about quadratic simultaneous equations. That's on this paper. We could start with that and just skip the ones, go backwards, but skip the ones that you've already done if you want to. And I'll just keep going until the point where I need to leave. Predicted papers. I think the problem with predicted papers, I mean, obviously you can do them, but I think it shouldn't be your only revision, right? Obviously, because we don't know what's on it, but it's also then limiting you, because especially for paper 3, obviously my predicted paper will be different to everyone else's. I haven't looked at anyone else's, but if it's both for Edexcel and it's both for higher tier, they're going to be, the topics are going to be roughly similar because we all know what did and didn't come up. So I think doing just predicted papers is a bit risky. I know that you don't have that much time left. You could do some predicted papers, then throw in some just general paper 2, paper 3s, just try and, I don't want you to go into the exam and be like, oh, I didn't revise this topic. Do you know what I mean? That's the worst thing. You want to have tried to have seen everything possible. Yeah, try and get a variety in what you're revising. Yeah, I've seen your paper 2, so that's why my predicted paper 3 was based off of, I saw paper 1, I saw paper 2 for Edexcel, so I just figured out maybe what was left. Obviously, there were still loads of topics left, right? Not enough to put in one paper, to fit all of them in one paper. So there's, it can still be very different to what my predicted paper is. And as I said, there were topics in my predicted paper 2 that didn't come up for you. So that would also maybe come up in paper 3. But I didn't want to, some of them I repeated the topic, but made a different question. Some of them I didn't want to repeat the topic because it was very specific anyway. So if you haven't done my predicted paper 2, I would go back and look at that as well, because some of the questions there, some of the topics haven't come up for you, actually. So they could also be good revision. Do I have a good estimate for the grade boundaries? I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even know how to begin to estimate the grade boundaries, to be honest with you. Yeah. You said question 20. Yeah, 20. I mean, you have had a rotation type question anyway, so I don't know if they'll ask this, but this one was actually not massively difficult, I don't think. Even, like, I feel like you psych yourself out thinking it's question 20, but it wasn't that crazy. So yeah, we'll do 20, 16, 40, we'll go backwards in that. If I don't need to leave at 7, I can obviously just stay for a bit longer, but I think I would have to probably leave at 8. We'll see. I mean, it depends if my students reply. So let's see. Triangle A is transformed by the combined transformation of a rotation of 180 degrees about the point -2, 0. So obviously make sure you get that right, not -2, 0 here. Followed by a translation with vector -3, 2. So what I would do is I would just map it out literally. So 180 degree rotation, you can obviously, I would recommend using tracing paper. I obviously don't have that, so I normally just kind of look at the squares. So if it was left 1 and then up 1, 180 degrees would be right 1, down 1. It's like literally the opposite, isn't it? So that would be here, roughly, on that line. It's meant to be on that line there, and then it's, what, 3 big, isn't it? 3 long. So that's that midpoint there, and then they've said they've translated it. So -3, so that's to the left, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 up. So here. So it touches the original one. So this is where it now is, right? This is where it now is. They've said 1 point on triangle A is invariant under the combined transformation. Find the coordinates. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, but technically there's 2 because this one and this one. But it's not that, because actually if you think about it, if you were to rotate it basically like that, this point here is actually now here, isn't it? And I'm trying to draw it, but this point here is now here. So those are actually not invariant. Yeah, I was initially thinking the same, to be honest, but it's the thing that threw me is that they said there was only 1 point, and I was like, yeah, but there's technically 2. And I was like, no, I must be wrong there, and that was kind of my logic reading the question. So what they actually mean is the only thing that hasn't moved is technically this halfway point here. Because if you think, if you rotated it, it rotates on that. That is the center of rotation, isn't it? Yeah. So it's not difficult, but it is a bit of a trick question. I feel like it's a bit of a stupid question. So that would be -3.5 and then obviously 1. Yeah, bit of a stupid question, that one, to be honest with you. I thought I had the mark scheme up, but it's gone. Let me open the mark scheme again, because I don't know if 2 marks is for 1 of each coordinate or if you get a mark for drawing. I'm not sure. So let's check, because you might have got, you'd definitely be able to get, the drawings correct. I'll see if there's a mark for that. This was paper 3, wasn't it? Let me open it again. Question 20. Oh yeah, so you get a mark for drawing this triangle, and you just get 1 mark for the answer. So yeah, you'd at least get the mark for the drawing it. So that's 1 out of 2. I don't think it's bad, to be honest. You didn't say question 19. There was someone at the start of this live who wanted to go through quadratic simultaneous equations. I don't know if you're still here. If you are, send a message in the chat now, and I'll go through this. Or if anyone wants to go through the quadratic simultaneous equations because you haven't had that yet, or are you all happy to move on? For me to keep working backwards, let me know who wants to go through the simultaneous equations. I don't know if it's less likely, it's more that I just know that you haven't had it yet, so yeah, that was my only reason. I've also got a question on quadratic simultaneous equations in my predicted paper as well, so you can have a look at that one. Obviously it's a different question. Okay, so when it's quadratic and linear, obviously you won't get 2 quadratics, right? It'll be 1 quadratic, 1 linear. You have to use the substitution method. So that means taking the linear one, subbing it into the quadratic one. However, as it stands, I want to have x or y as my subject. Now, this is where you decide. You can make either the subject, it doesn't matter, but what I would look at is two things. One, which is easier to rearrange? Technically, it's easier to make x the subject, but also which is easier to substitute in. Because you see how if I make x the subject, not only do I have to then square it, I also have to times by 2. If I make y the subject, I would get a fraction, which you might think is more annoying, but when I sub it in, I'm only squaring it. So that's up to you. I think personally that x is probably still easier because also I'm avoiding fractions, I'm avoiding negatives, but it's up to you which you prefer. It's literally a personal choice. I'm probably going to make x the subject, I tend to take it on a case-by-case scenario. So at least I don't have any fractions here, right? That's something, isn't it? And then sub it in, so where it says x, don't forget that you're timesing it by 2 and you're squaring it. Minus y squared. So I've made everything in terms of y, basically. Obviously, when you square this, don't think it's just 1 squared and just 2y squared. It is double brackets, isn't it? So also don't forget that. It is double brackets. So you need to expand and then multiply them all by 2 afterwards. So at this point, it's just loads of rearranging, isn't it? So 1 minus 2y, so that'd be minus 4y, and then plus 4y squared. Just be really careful with negatives and positives. And then double it all, so 2 minus 8y plus 8y squared minus y squared equals 17. Collecting the like terms, I get 7y squared. So what I'm going to do, because obviously you will end up with a quadratic, is you want to make it equal to 0. I'm going to move the 17, not because it's easier because it's only one term. The way I decide which way I'm going to move left or right is where the y squared or the x squared is positive. So because it is positive over here, I'm going to move the 17. So I had minus 8y, 2 take away 17 is minus 15. That's what I would get for that one. Okay, now, they haven't mentioned anything about significant figures, round it to this, so I'm assuming you probably could factorize it, but if you don't want to, you can also use the quadratic formula anyway because it's a calculator one. So yeah, if it does say something like, oh, give your answers to 3 significant figures, normally that means you can't factorize it, so just go straight to quadratic formula. This one, it hasn't mentioned it, so you could factorize or you could put it in the quadratic formula. It's up to you. I don't know, they're kind of annoying numbers, so I probably would have just put it in the quadratic formula, but I guess because it's a prime number, it's not too bad. So you've got 7y and y. We need a plus and a minus, and then we need factors of 15. So 1 and 15. Oh. And then it's a negative overall, isn't it? So I think minus 15 plus 1. Either way, you can use the quadratic formula. That's obviously fine, doesn't matter. So I get y is 15 over 7 or minus 1. And then obviously once you've done all of that, that's then the easiest thing. Yeah, you can just use the quadratic formula. That's fine. Just obviously make sure you type it in correctly. Once you've done that, that's the hardest bit, isn't it? Then you just take them and substitute them back into the original equations. Obviously, I don't tend to use the quadratic one because it seems more complicated, but you technically can. I would normally sub it into the linear one, but I would sub it into the rearranged version because that is still the same equation. I've just rearranged it. And because I'm now looking for x, it's easier to sub it into the rearranged version, so you don't have to then rearrange it twice. So x is 1 minus 2y. So obviously do it for both. X is 1 minus 2 times that one, or x is 1 minus 2 times minus 1. One minus 2 times 15 over 7. So minus 23 over 7. Obviously, that's naturally probably going to be a fraction, isn't it? That one should just be 3, shouldn't it? Yeah. So you've got x is minus 23 over 7 and 3, and then y, just list them basically, is 15 over 7 and minus 1. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically it. 5 marks. Quite a nice question, I think. That one quite straightforward. You haven't got upper and lower bounds yet. You also haven't had speed, distance, time, so this is probably quite a good one to look at. Question 18. So This one is also, this one's also a 5 marker one. So a high-speed train travels a distance of 487 kilometers in 3 hours. The distance is measured correct to the nearest kilometer. The time is measured correct to the nearest minute. So just double check that because they've given it in hours, but it's nearest minute. Yeah, this one's not too bad, to be honest. By considering bounds, work out the average speed, kilometers. Also pay attention to this though, kilometers per minute. Normally it's kilometers per hour, isn't it? They've said per minute. Of the train to a suitable degree of accuracy. That means you need to work out both the upper and the lower bounds. Obviously, consider your formula first. Speed is distance over time, so we're dividing. So upper bound of the speed would be the upper bound of the distance divided by the lower bound of the time. That would give you the biggest possible answer. So this one's quite a nice one to round, 487.5. Now, this one, obviously convert it into minutes. So 3 hours, that's 180 minutes. But they've said to the nearest minute, so the lower bound would be 179.5. I'm not going to convert it back into hours because, as I said, the speed they want it in kilometers per minute. So I am literally going to leave it like this. Should you do A-level maths? I would say A-level, well, most A-levels, but A-level maths particularly is very, very hard. So it's probably quite risky. It depends. If you're on a grade 7, is it because like you did really well in the exams or because you feel like you actually are working at a grade 7? If your understanding is a grade 7, you could try A-level maths. When I did GCSE, I got like an A star, which is like either an 8 or a 9, and I still found A-level hard. So that will give you some kind of idea. I think you'd need to get a minimum of a 7, maybe 8 or a 9 to be okay with A-level maths. I mean, you could still do it, it would just be a lot of work otherwise. So it's up to you. It depends if you need it. If you need it for what you want to do afterwards, then maybe. If you don't need it, I wouldn't take it for no reason. So 2.7158 ... 2.7158. And then the other one's just the opposite, isn't it? So that's pretty easy. Lower bound of the speed, lower bound of the distance, upper bound of the time. So 486.5 and then 180.5. .5. I was like, that's not right. Make sure you rearrange it properly. 86. There we go. 2.695 ... kilometers per minute. So obviously they then say find an answer. So I would round that. I would choose to round that to 2.7 because they both round to 2.7. That's your reason, isn't it? So the speed is 2.7 kilometers per minute. And then the reason is because I would say you could say 1 decimal place. I'd say 2 significant figures, whatever you've rounded it to. Both round to 2.7. They both agree or something like that. To this level of, to this degree of accuracy, they both round to that number, something like that. So that one was fairly nice, I feel like, and that's a 5 marker. Yeah, I've never heard of core maths, to be fair. I've not actually heard of that. Like, I'm not just familiar with it, yeah. This one's histogram, so to be honest, I'm just going to skip that for now. Because you've already had histograms. Not to say it won't come up, but I feel like there's a very small chance, isn't there? Question 16, you haven't really had kind of circle, sectors, shapes, that kind of thing. I know you've had sine and cosine rule, but maybe trigonometric area of a triangle hasn't necessarily come up yet. So here is a shaded shape A, B, C, D. The shape is made from a triangle and a sector of a circle, centre O and radius 6 centimeters. OCD is a straight line. So we've got AD is 14. We've got angle AOD, so this angle here is 140. And then angle OAD is 24. Calculate the perimeter of the shape. Oh, okay, perimeter. So this probably is sine or cosine rule then, more so than area. I mean, you can immediately work out the arc length if you want to start with that, because you could work out this side, can't you? 360 minus 140. You can do that first. 220. Arc length, it's not a formula on your formula sheet, but it is halfway on the formula sheet, because obviously you need the perimeter, so that would be the circumference, which is 2 pi r, or pi times diameter. But then just remember you have to times it by the angle over 360 to get a smaller part of the circumference. Yeah, you can watch them afterwards. Yeah, they'll upload on my channel, and you can watch all the previous ones as well if you want. So the arc length, they've said that the radius was 6, wasn't it? 2 times pi times 6 times the angle, 220 over 360. Now, you can leave it in terms of pi if you want. You could write down a few decimals. I might leave it in terms of pi. Oh, stop trying to move out of the way. I would probably leave it in terms of pi because it's not the final answer. So that was 22 over 3 pi. Because we're not at the final answer yet, are we? So that's the arc length. I obviously have 14. The only thing that's then missing from my perimeter is this bit here, isn't it? So that's the bit I now need to figure out, which obviously I'm going to use the triangle. So we know that this is 6, we know that this is 6, we've got 14. So I'm thinking sine rule. To be fair, you've got enough information, you could probably use cosine rule as well if you wanted, but I feel like I'd rather not. Just going to use sine rule. So I'm going to work out the whole of this side, obviously not just CD, right? The whole of that side, and then afterwards I can take away 6. Yeah. Yeah. I would recommend leaving everything in terms of pi, or if it's a different question with surds, or if it's a question with fractions, leaving it in the exact format until the end if there's like loads of steps, just so that your rounding at the end isn't off. That's normally what I'd recommend if you can. So sine rule, I'm looking at finding a side, aren't I? So that side you can't really see is OD over sine of the opposite angle. The opposite angle is 24, is equal to the other side, which I'm going to use 14 because that one is then opposite the angle 140. And then obviously you just have to rearrange it and then put it in the calculator. So 14 over sine, that's meant to be 140, not 146. There you go, you can see it better now. Sine 24, type all of that in. .858. Now, that's the whole of that side. Let me go back. That's the whole of this side. But remember that the radius is 6, isn't it? So I'm going to take that away to find just CD. So CD is that, minus 6. Obviously, you can see that's an 8. Obviously, you can see it's not to scale. So 2.858. So then finally, the perimeter was the arc length, which was our 22 over 3 pi, plus the 14 side, plus this. So now I can bring it back in my calculator. I've got the answer here, so take away 6. So that's my 2, plus 14, plus the 22 over 3 pi, just so I had the exact thing with all the decimals. So I get 39.89. They said 3 significant figures, so 39.9. That's what I would do. Let me just check. Yeah, okay. All right. Let's keep going backwards. You've already done algebraic proof, so I really don't think they'd ask that again. You've done some proportion, you've done iteration, so that's why I wasn't too worried about those ones. You have done 3D trig as well, so I wasn't that worried about this, but again, I don't know if there's any of these that you still want to go through anyway. Any of these, just shout in the comments if you want to go through any of these. I know that you've technically had some of them, but just let me know. If not, I'll keep skipping back. So you've got algebraic proof, you've got proportion 1, you've got iteration 1 that has a context. 11. I would recommend from memory, basically. Because I know that tan is roughly kind of like this. That's a really bad drawing, but you get the point. It's roughly like that. If you weren't sure in the question, if you're like, I know the shape, but I'm not sure the coordinates, hopefully you'd memorize it anyway. But what you could do is just go, well, look, I've got some exact coordinates here, haven't I? So you could go, right, tan of 0, what does that give me for y? 0, so I know it crosses through here. And then, if you've not memorized it, but I would just recommend memorizing it, to be honest. Tan of 90, there's a math error. So if you remember on the tan graph, there's asymptotes, aren't there? As in lines that it can't cross. So it can't cross 90, so that tells me that obviously, I mean, I know you don't need to draw this side of it, but just so you can see the whole thing. It would be, that was horrible. It would be something like that. That's really bad, but yeah. And then your asymptote is at 90, and it repeats every 180. So it goes through 180, it doesn't touch 270. I don't have touch screen, so I can't really draw it myself, but you know, I'll get a picture up and it will stop at 360. Let me get an actual nice picture up of the tan graph. But I would just recommend memorizing it, like the shape, and then it goes through at 0, 180, 360. That's, fairly straightforward. Let me just copy this image so you can see something better than my drawing. Yeah. Down here. You see? That's effectively the same thing. Goes through at 0. You don't need to worry about the 1 and the 2, like there's not really coordinates for that. Just as long as you've got this kind of slight wave shape and it doesn't cross 90, it doesn't cross 270. So yeah, just memorize that. Because they've said just sketch it. They've not asked for like really specific ones. They've just said sketch it. Yeah, 6 and 5. You've already done functions, so I don't think they'll ask that again. You've already done expanding triple brackets. Yeah. That was just like a general kind of question there. Maybe frequency polygons could come up, possibly. I did a question on that in my paper, so you could see that. That's trig, isn't it? Which I think you've had. Oh, you said 6 and 5. Yeah, okay, so for 6, ABC is a right angle triangle. We've given AC as 14. Obviously, we know this is 90. Size of angle B to the size of angle A is 3 to 2. So what I would probably do, you don't have to do it with algebra, but what I would do is you can always use algebra if you want, or you can just share out the ratio immediately. Oh, you meant 8. Hang on. Oh, this one. No, I think this one you just have to figure it out. Let's see. The diagram shows a solid metal cube. The areas of 3 of the faces are marked on the diagram. Okay. The metal cuboid. Oh, sorry, I meant to say cuboid. The metal cuboid is melted and made into cubes. Each of these cubes has side length 2.5 centimeters. Work out the greatest number of cubes. Okay. Yeah, I see. This is kind of complicated, I guess. So, I guess it's just volume, basic. I think that's the general kind of context, isn't it? Volume. Obviously, they've given you the side. You don't have the actual side length, so you kind of have to figure out. Yeah, maybe you could use algebra for this. Like you could say this is x times y. So you could say like xy is 45, and then so cuboids are all different, aren't they? This one could be y times z, I guess. Is 15, and then the top one would be x times z, wouldn't it? Maybe from there you could kind of figure out, because you see how they overlap. And I feel like they've chosen quite nice numbers. Like the same number has to divide into 15 and 27. That's obviously going to be 3, isn't it? Things like that. The same number here, let's see. That would that make that 5? And then that would be 9. Yeah, so I would say x is 9, y is 5, z is 3. I've just figured it out, right? There's not really a formula. I've just kind of figured it out. And then you've got your, where is it? 3. You've got your measurements there, 5, 9. Okay, so then the volume of the cuboid, you can do 3 times 5 times 9, which is 135, I think. So that's cubed. That's how much we've got. They've melted it down though, so we're not worried about the shape of it. They've melted it down. Each of a cube, 2.5 centimeters. So that's obviously the volume of the cube would be 2.5 times 2.5 times 2.5, wouldn't it? So work that out as well. There's not a specific formula if that's what you're asking. It's just kind of figuring it out. Obviously using volume, but it's just figuring it out. 0.5 times 2.5, which is 15.625. And then, yeah, how many of these would fit into that? I guess you just divide it at the end. Which gives you 8.64. So obviously then the answer would have to be 8, right? Because the 0.64 isn't enough to create a cube. So 8 cubes. So yeah, not a specific formula. I think it's just a kind of trying to figure it out as you go along question. No, apart from volume, there's no other formula. No. So that one was, how many marks was that? 5 marks. Yeah, quite a lot of marks for that one, I guess. Shout if you want to go through any of the others. We've got a frequency polygon here. We've got, this is effectively just trig, which I think, did you have trig already? Or at least it was obviously in your 3D trig one. We've got the speed, distance, time kind of one, the one that's slightly related to that. We've got like a kind of bar chart mean one, I think. Obviously at this point we're going back to the easier ones. Yeah, percentage increase, that kind of thing. Yeah, you had 3D trig, exactly, yeah. Question 5. Okay, so Lara is a skier. She completed a ski race in 1 minute 54 seconds. The race was 475 meters in length. It feels a bit like it's up and low bounds, but it obviously isn't. It wouldn't be upper and low bounds this soon into the question. So Lara assumes that her average speed is the same for each race. Using this assumption, work out how long Lara should take to complete a 700-meter race. So they've said about average speed, haven't they? I'm thinking we might as well work that out. Speed is distance over time. So I would do meters per second because that I think matches what we've got here. So we want to convert 1 minute 54 seconds into just seconds. So I go, well, there's only 1 minute, so that's 60 plus 54, isn't it? That's kind of just how I'd work it out. 114, let me just make sure I'm not wrong with that for some reason. Yeah, that's fine. So that's how many seconds it is. So then obviously distance, 475, which is fine because it's already in meters, divided by the time. Is this, so you could write it as a simplified fraction. I'm going to keep this in my answer, but 4.16 meters per second. Don't round it, just leave it as exactly that in your calculator. So then we've been given, you can write this out again, we know the speed and we know the distance. So we want to work out the time, isn't it? So that would then be the 700 meters divided by your answer, which is still in meters per second. So it will give you the answer in terms of seconds. 700 divided by your answer 168. So remember that this is seconds, isn't it? Seconds, because of the speed was in seconds. So they obviously want the answer in minutes and seconds. So what I would do then is I would just do 168 divided by 60, because I know 60 seconds in a minute. So that gives me 2.8 minutes. But then, so that's 2 minutes, isn't it? And then 0.8 of a... This is how I work it out. Your calculator might be more advanced than mine, but that's how I'd work it out. And then I would just times that. Obviously, it's not 8 seconds, right? Oh, where's my answer gone? Times your answer by the 60, 48 seconds. That's how I would do it. I know that the other one converts, the fact button converts. So like if I had 2.8 and you press that. Now, you could use that. Technically, that it's thinking that it's 2 hours, 48 minutes, but I guess minutes and seconds, it works the same. So you could use that button as long as you're aware that that is minutes and seconds. You could do that. Yeah. Yeah. That was also technically part B. Let me just check if my student is coming or not. Doesn't look like it. The part B, Lara's average speed actually increases the further she goes. So we were assuming that it was the same speed, weren't we? They're actually saying it actually increases the further she goes. How does this affect your answer? Well, it's a longer distance, wasn't it? It was 700 meters, which was longer than the first one. And if she gets faster as she goes, then how would it affect our answer, which our answer was time? I guess you could say it would be less time. It would be fewer seconds. The answer would be less, something along the lines of that would be fine. Yeah. Don't know if there's anything else on this paper that you really want to look at. To be fair, obviously that one's pretty straightforward. Just type it into the calculator. There's a percentage increase one. That's just a formula that you need to, you could just use the formula. So I don't know if you guys want to look at anything else from this paper. Anything else from this paper, guys, that you want to look at? Yeah, this paper was not too bad. It had a lot of topics you'd already seen, so yeah, I didn't need to look at those again. The last question, I think we already went through the last question, but you can obviously rewind the live and just go back to that. Here. You can rewind the live and have a look at the explanation for the last question. It was because we worked backwards, so it was like one of the first ones we did. No, that's fine. Yeah, just rewind it a bit. We did do another paper at the start, so don't rewind right to the beginning, but maybe like rewind it to about 30 minutes ago. That's probably when we went through this question, yeah. Vectors and circle theorems. Don't know if you have a specific vector or circle theorem questions you want to have a look at. Yeah, loci, you just have to figure out, am I using my compass, which is like a circle around a point, if they're saying from a point. If they mention from a line, then it would be a ruler. It's pretty much just that. Do you want like a vectors like ratio one, or? In my predicted paper 2, there's a vectors ratio scale one. In my predicted paper 3, there's like a parallel proof one. So at least we've covered both. Let me copy it. Hopefully you can read that. I know it's a bit blurry, but you can more or less see. So this is one of the 5 mark ones. So let's see what they've given us. They've told us OAN and OMB are, and APB are straight lines. AN is twice the size of OA, so we'll come back to that in a minute. M is the midpoint of OB. OA is A. So if that's A, as I said, we'll come back. AN is equal to twice that. So this would be 2A, wouldn't it? Might as well write that whilst we're here. Then OB is B. A to P is equal to K times AB. So it's just a smaller version, isn't it? Yeah. It's just a smaller version of that line, that's what I'm saying. Given that MPN is a straight line, find the value of K. Now, obviously, they happen to mention MPN is a straight line for a reason. They're not going to give you any information that's not relevant. So that's why I'm going to draw that line in there. So when you get this question, it could be, this was obviously a K value one. Sometimes it's a ratio. It's all the same thing, isn't it? It's the same method. You have to find 2 vectors from the line that crosses through the one you want. Now this one is more obvious because they've said, oh, by the way, MPN is a straight line. So they've kind of hinted at it. Sometimes they don't hint at it and you just have to look and see which line crosses through. In the case that we're referring to, the one that we want is APB, isn't it? That's the one we're interested in. So the one that crosses through it is MPN. So we just have to basically find 2 vectors from that line. You can choose any 2 vectors. I normally choose the whole thing, and then maybe M to P, like the smaller version. So M to N would be easier. Remember that they said that M was the midpoint, so that's half minus a half B, because we're going backwards. And then add 2A. So I would rewrite it, just make sure you've got A at the front, just so you don't get mixed up. Minus half B. Basically, that's that whole line. And then the second one, I'm going to choose MP, which we might have to find some other vectors before I can actually do this one. So I would still do minus a half B, still go that way. You could go this way if you wanted, or you could go that way. It doesn't really matter. Minus a half B, add A, and then I want to add AP. That's what I would do. So in order to find AP, this is where my K is going to get involved, because I need to have the K, or if it's your fraction, or if it's your ratio, whatever it is, you need to have it in one of the 2 vectors that you've got. So AB, that's quite an easy one to work out, would be minus A plus B. So then AP, they've just said, is just that times by K, isn't it? Minus A plus B. Okay. So then I can add that to this. Well, let's expand it whilst we're here, shall we? So that would be minus KA plus KB. Obviously collect the A's and the B's together. I know they're not like terms. You've got like 1A and then minus K, so just factorize it. 1 minus K, A, and then same for B, K minus a half. I'm only writing it in that order because the negative is second, but it doesn't really matter which order you write it in as long as you keep the correct positives and negatives. So I've got my 2 vectors. Then I need to compare the coefficients. So of A, that's one of my equations. We're creating simultaneous equations now. And then B. Now, looking at the line MPN, I can't write that 3 is equal to 1 minus K, because as you can see, MP is a much smaller version of MN. It's not equal, is it? So you can't write it like that. So this is where I feel like it gets complicated, or even more complicated. You technically have to bring in another scale. So K is the scale for the AB line, I need a scale for the MN line. It's a scale that I don't really care about, but I mathematically have to bring it in. So I tend to use X. So I'm going to say X is my scale for the line MPN. Now, it doesn't matter which side of the equation you apply the X to, as long as for both equations you apply it to the same side. I would probably just apply it to the side that's easier, which is this one, the 3x, not the one with the k. And then, so that's my A coefficient equation. Do the exact same for B and then put X on the same side, or you can choose a different letter than X. You don't have to use the same letter. So minus a half X is K minus a half. And then from here, you're solving simultaneous equations, but I don't really care what X is. I just want to find K. So imagine you're kind of half solving simultaneous equations. You're just half solving it, aren't you? Because you don't want to find both. Sometimes you end up finding X anyway, just because it happens to come out, but sometimes you don't have to. I obviously just want to find K. So I'm going to try and eliminate the X. So if you think these are just linear simultaneous equations, I'm just going to eliminate the X. So the way that I would do it is I would probably multiply this one to make 3x. So that would be times by 6. That you can obviously solve it differently. So that would become minus 3x equals 6k minus 3. I've just changed the yellow one, right? And then let's line them up. 3x is equal to 1 minus k minus 3x. I'm just going to rewrite it so that I've got the k's and the numbers in the same place. Minus 3 plus 6k. Different sign, different sign add. Yeah, same sign subtract, different sign add. So we need to add them in order to get rid of the 3x. So that would be 0. And then you've got 1 plus minus 3 is minus 2. Minus k plus 6k is 5k. You can see here, now I can just solve for k. 2 is 5k. K is 2 over 5. I didn't need to find out what x was. I didn't really care. I just had to technically put it in there. Yeah. There's your answer. So these are the steps, right? You have to find two vectors from the line that crosses through the one that you want. Then you have to create two simultaneous equations that match up the coefficients, obviously add in another scale, solve for whatever letter you were looking for. In this case, it was K, and then there's your answer. It seems simple when you do it like that, but actually some of them are much harder, some of them are much longer, but the general steps are the same. So at least there's that. I think further maths at A level is completely different to further maths at GCSE, by the way. It's not the same thing at all. It's like a completely different topic. Further maths at GCSE is the same as normal maths at A level. As in, it's not all of the content, obviously, it's just a little bit. But if you're thinking to do normal maths at A level, that's what further maths gives you a taste of. Further maths at A level is a whole different type of maths. They just happen to have the same name, which I think is confusing, but anyway. So yeah, if you didn't like further maths at GCSE, you won't like normal maths at A level, is what I would say, because it is 100% that and harder. And then you definitely won't like further maths either, because that's just a different level anyway. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say A levels is like a really big decision because they are not that easy at all. I wouldn't take 4 if you don't have to. I would definitely recommend not taking 4 if you don't have to, which most people don't have to. I don't know your situation, but most people don't. If you know what you want to do after A level, which to be fair, most of us don't, but if you do, obviously you'll have to line up your A levels with that path. If you don't, then I would say just choose things that are maybe that A, you're good at, that you don't find that hard, B, you think will give you maybe a wide range of possible outcomes at the end of A level, and C, maybe pick, some that are hard, but balance it with something that might be a little bit easier. What I found at A level that I liked is I had a bit of a variety in my subjects. So at least when I started hating one of them, I had something different to look at, I guess, is what I would suggest. So yeah, just consider. When I did it, like ages ago now, we had to take 4, but then after the first year you dropped one of them, so you obviously ended up with just 3 A levels, but you had to take 4 in the first year, but you knew that you were going to drop one of them. So I took, because I didn't know what I was going to do at all, so I took maths because I was like, well, maths at GCSE was like, alright, so I'll do that. I took maths. I took biology because I just felt like I didn't particularly love it, but I was like, yeah, it's alright. Again, I just thought, yeah, that's fine, I'll take a science. So I took biology because biology is definitely the easiest of the sciences. And then I took Spanish because I wanted to speak Spanish anyway, and I'd obviously been doing it since year 7. So there's quite a variety there, like you've got maths, biology, so science, and then like a language. And then the one that I dropped, I took photography because I just thought, because I did art at GCSE, but then art is actually, not that it's like hard, it's just a lot of work. Like the quantity of time is a lot. So I wanted to take something that didn't have necessarily a written exam, because I was like, I've already got 3 other things, let me take something that kind of balances it out. But I didn't take art because I didn't think I was good enough anyway to do A-level art, but also I was like, that's a lot of work, maybe photography would be easier. That was my logic, because you're just taking pictures, you're not actually creating artwork, right? It was still a lot of work in the end, because obviously it's still, you have to create the books of whatever, portfolios and stuff. But it was quite nice because it gave me like a bit of time off from something that was educational. Obviously now, at least as far as I'm aware, you only have to take 3 in the first place. So you don't have to take that 4th one. So yeah, it depends. Depends what you're interested in. It depends. I didn't know what I was going to do after A-level, right? Because I was only 15 when I chose my A-levels. So who knows what I was going to do. So I just chose things that I thought I was good at, that I thought I didn't completely hate, that kind of thing. If you know what you're going to do, or you have at least an idea, then you obviously might have to follow that path. Luckily for me, the uni course that I did just required 3 A levels. I don't think it even required special subjects, like specific subjects. So I probably could have just continued photography in 3rd year and still got into uni. But anyway, some of this you don't really know. Yeah. Some of this you don't really know until you get to the end of A levels, so it's a bit late. I did accounting and finance. Again, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, I'm decent at maths, but I'm not good enough to do, or at least I didn't think, I thought uni maths would be too hard, but also I thought, what am I going to do with that? So I didn't do maths at uni, and I thought, what's similar? So I just went with accounting and finance because I thought it's business. It's quite a vague degree, isn't it? You could use it for a lot of things. So that was kind of my logic. Yeah. And it was quite good. It was quite a varied degree. It had different things. So yeah, it was fine. How old am I? 26 right now, almost 27. So yeah. Well, there's your vectors one. The problem with circle theorems ones, at least with vectors, most of them are either this question or they are the question that's like maybe proving parallel lines, which I have in my predicted paper, so you can look at that. And then maybe a random one where it's like find another vector, but they're quite, in that case, they're kind of similar. You can kind of guess, right? As long as I know how to find the ratio or the scale, as long as I know how to prove parallel lines, then you've mostly covered vectors. Do you know what I mean? You've mostly covered it. The problem with circle theorems is you can learn all of the 8 circle theorems, but the questions are different every time. I would say for Edexcel, make sure that you're confident maybe with alternate segment theorem and the cyclic quadrilateral one. I think those 2 come up quite a lot. Yeah. So actually, I was going to call my channel My GCSE Maths, and then I searched it, and then I found this guy when I searched it, this was like 2 or 3 years ago, I saw that he'd just started, and I was like, oh. So I had to change the name because of that guy. So yeah, I was going to call it that as well, but yeah, he'd already created his channel by then, so yeah. So yeah, that's the problem with circle theorems. You just have to try and practice as many questions as you can find. So what you could do is, if you want, just go through all the past papers until you find the circle theorem questions, and then just practice all of those. But I would say it's a lot of alternate segment theorem and most of the time, and it's quite a lot of the cyclic quadrilateral one, so make sure to look out for that. Yeah. You can always rewind. We've obviously done most of the work now. I'm going to have to finish soon, but if you want to look through this live, you can rewind it and watch the video well, the paper that we went through already if you want. I also have a predicted paper, as I've said, uploaded this morning if you want to look at that one. Yeah. Yeah, I know, guys. It's going to be weird that after this there's no more, is there? You've only got 2 more days and then maths is done for GCSE. You can always comment on my videos, like when you get your results in August. If you want to let me know what you've got, you can always, like, whatever video uploads most recently in that time, you can always leave a comment. Yeah, you've also got my email. That's true. Forgot about that. My email is on my account on my YouTube channel. It's the same thing. It's just GCSEMathsPro, but then at Gmail. So if you want to send me an email about how you went with your results, then that's great. If you don't want to, that's obviously fine. It's up to you. Or how paper 3 went, you can leave some comments on my channel. That's fine. Tomorrow for revision, do you have the whole of tomorrow? Or do you have another exam? Do you have the whole day just for maths? Like, do you have to study for something else? Depends what your timetable is. You got the whole day. I mean, at some point you're going to do, like, probably after doing 2 past papers, you're going to be sick of it anyway, aren't you? That's the problem, isn't it? I don't know, 2 or 3. Like, if you want to take the whole day, then fine, but also I wouldn't suggest tiring yourself out, like, too much. Hopefully you would have done a lot of them by now anyway. That's the other thing, isn't it? Yeah. 2 hours you could fit a past paper and mark it in. I would say just make sure that you are marking your past papers as well. Or if you're watching a live, that you're watching someone else, go through it. Just so that you can see what was wrong, what was right. Yeah, you could do some topic videos. Tomorrow evening? I don't know what time it's going to be, actually. I need to check. Either 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock tomorrow, UK time, I will have a video that's like probably 15-20 minutes. That's on, like, last minute revision, so you could watch that, but that won't come out until yeah, ages. 6 is a lot, but yeah, look, if you can cram it all in, that's great. If you feel like you're just going to burn yourself out, don't do that. You know what's best for you. Everyone revises differently, isn't it? Yeah. No, you're fine. If you want to watch my other lives, obviously, if you haven't seen them, you can go back and watch them. And you said face reveal, the actual cover photo has got my face on it, like the thumbnail has my face on it, so there's that if you want a face reveal. I also have I have like 2 or 3 videos where it's just me actually talking, so if you really want to look at that, you can go see that. But yeah, it's on the thumbnail, so it's not really that exciting. The best way to, I don't know, 6 papers is a lot. But I would also make sure you have time to mark them. Don't just do 6 papers and not mark them, right? Make sure you mark them, because you want to know feedback. Is this right? Is this wrong? Where have they given me marks? Did they give a mark for writing this one thing or not? Make sure you have time for that as well. Yeah. I don't know, maybe do a couple of papers, and if you feel like there's a few topics from those papers that you keep getting wrong, do a little bit of revision on that, just to kind of change it up a bit. It's a lot. 6 papers is more like 12 hours, because it's like an hour and a half each plus marking. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, make sure you're marking it, yeah, because I think that's as important as doing the paper. Because you can do the paper, but what if you don't know if you got it right or not? Like, there's no feedback, is there? So make sure you are marking it as well. So if you need to do less papers but spend time marking it, then that's fine. Yeah, definitely too old, guys. Come on. Yeah, I feel like 23 is still too old though, isn't it? That's the problem. Either way, it's too old, okay? Yeah. I don't know, guys, if you want to go through anything else before we finish. As I said, circle theorems, you're just gonna have to find loads of different like questions, I think. Um, yeah, I think 2 papers is loads. Yeah, because at this point we're basically there. Like, if you haven't, done the papers already, then there's not a lot left, of time to learn it all. For A levels, I don't know. I've not looked, to be fair. I've not actually looked. I think I used, I used to use Maths Genie a lot, but he's more like website than he has videos, but he's more focused on the website, isn't it? I used those questions quite a lot when I did A level maths, but I don't know, like recently. I think Lucy, I think you had some recommendations, didn't you? For A level, I think someone else has some recommendations for A level. Um, yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna leave it there. We got through at least kind of most of the 2 papers. Yeah, sorry I can't do tomorrow. Just unfortunately, the timings didn't work out this time round. But as I said, I will have a video uploading tomorrow evening anyway. That's kind of a last-minute revision. Like I said, check out my predicted past paper 1. Also, maybe check out predicted past paper 3, and then also maybe 2. That could be helpful. Otherwise, yeah, it's been really great working with you guys. Thanks for coming back to all the lives. And yeah, if you want to let me know how it goes, send me an email. If you want to let me know how your results go, I'd love to know. It's up to you, obviously, how you feel. But best of luck. Best of luck on Wednesday. You'll be absolutely fine. If you've already done the first 2, you'll be fine with the last one. Do you know what I mean? Don't even worry about it. It'll be absolutely fine. Yeah, thanks for interacting. Thanks for commenting. Best of luck with the rest of your GCSEs as well. I hope it all goes well. Enjoy your summer. And yeah, good luck if you do A-level maths as well. You'll definitely need it for that. Okay. All right. Well, I will see you later, guys. Bye.